You're listening to the all-new CultureCast, Chicagoland's finest podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to another gripping installment of the all-new CultureCast. I'm your host, Nick, and with me is...
the Gorehound.
And it's Kurt Russell Month.
Kurt Russell Month.
I think you'll love it. I understand they open the gym at 5 a.m. You can start pumping early.
Hi there. How you doing? Say, this your $10? You know, I saw it floating underneath the car and picked it up. Here you are, Mr. What's your name?
Stanley Kowalski.
Polish, eh? What a coincidence. Rudy Polanski, how are you? What, I'm supposed to buy this shit? 2,000 years and you can't find one broad to fit the bill? Come on, Dave. You must be doing something seriously wrong. 3 houses, that's $375. That's 37 cents.
Well, that's half the money I have left.
Yeah, shit happens. Cough it up.
I see you got all my greatest hits. You just put together a nice little compilation, didn't you?
Let's tie her off and kick back some cold ones, huh? Hey, come and see her. You want a minute? Yeah, I guess I'll go with a margarita, huh? Hey!
Where we look at a new Kurt Russell movie each week of this month. We've been going strong. We started off with a newer release with Bone Tomahawk. Continued last week with Big Trouble in Little China. And this week we're doing a twofer. Who are we talking about this week? What character of his?
Snake Plissken, Escape from New York and Escape from L.A. It's the original and the sequel. New York was the original and L.A. is the sequel.
Yes.
Two very different movies, but they're also very similar.
It's interesting you said that they're two very different movies, because I kind of disagree on that, but we'll get into the meat and potatoes. There's a lot to mine with these two films.
Yes.
The premise of both the films essentially is that their respective settings are a form of a prison, that the U.S. takes place in the future. Well, now the past, but at the time it was the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that these films...
1998.
Yeah, 98 was, I think, the first one, and then the second one was 2013.
Yeah.
And L.A. and New York are both prisons in their respective films, and Kurt Russell's character, Snake, who's kind of a soldier of fortune, a criminal, a whole bunch of different things. He doesn't care about anything. He's really cynical. Mm-hmm. And he's sent in by the military to recover something that has fallen into these prisons. The president in the first one, and this weapon, this doomsday weapon in the second one. And he has to get it back in a certain time period, or he will die due to something that was injected into him.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the premises are
exactly the same.
Exactly, yes.
But the character of Snake has been, it's impacted itself on pop culture. And Kurt Russell, this is a character that Kurt Russell, I think, really enjoys playing. He was really the push to get that sequel made, because he really wanted to return to being Snake Plissken. So
yeah, because his character is so cool in this. And I don't really see anything else, resembling Snake Plissken outside of the character in Metal Gear Solid.
Who I guess was based specifically on Snake Plissken.
Yeah. So it's a very cool character where you don't really see this. Yes, he is just like this renegade criminal guy, but the way that he handles it is so cool. He's
definitely... There's not a lot of depth to this guy. He doesn't say a whole lot, but he took that sort of lone gunman type of role that was always been popular in movies and westerns and things, and he kind of moved it into a new direction that a lot of movies have since sort of emulated. That this Snake character, in terms of his cynicism and his roguish nature. The first film was made in 1981, or released in 1981, directed by John Carpenter, who also directed Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can obviously see that Kurt Russell and John Carpenter are very good friends.
Yeah, they get along.
They kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. And this film, let me ask you this. When was the first time you saw Escape from New York?
I want to say that my dad showed it to me when I was much younger. Mm-hmm. I was obviously very bored with it, Escape from New York, because it's a dark movie, both visually and through the story. But I think primarily visually. It's just very dark.
Most of it takes place at night.
Right. It's kind of slow.
Yes.
It builds up. And it's just not very exciting. It's very cool and very atmospheric.
Yep.
But as a child, I just didn't really get a whole lot out of it. I was more interested in LA as a child because it's not to insult it, but it is a little bit more childish.
Yeah, it's the one thing I noticed, and I'm glad you brought this up, is the first time I saw Escape from New York is earlier this week. It's a film that I always kind of wanted to see because it's a classic of.
You've never seen it beforehand?
I just never got around to seeing it.
Oh man!
And it's a classic of the genre. I wanted to see it, and so I finally got around to seeing it. That and L.A. within this past week, and it was not what I was exactly expecting. I was telling my bride, who's a Kurt Russell fan, and she's like, Kurt Russell in his prime in the 80s? This movie's going to be great. And she fell asleep during it.
Right. Yeah, and I don't blame her.
Yeah, it's a very slow-moving film. This is how they made action films back in those days. It's very much of the genre, that late 70s sort of action flick. And it's kind of dull. It's really dull. And it wasn't what I was expecting, so I'm really disappointed by it. But, as you point out, it is wonderfully atmospheric. I love the set design. I love the world, the idea that Carpenter created for this film. There's so much to mine.
It reminds me of Blade Runner, where it's very slow, but it's also awesome in everything that it does.
Wow.
Can you see that?
Yeah, Blade Runner is a very slow movie, but as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Blade Runner, but outside of its visuals, I think the story, there's almost nothing there. But that's just me. Sorry, Internet. I know the Internet loves that movie. I know it's a big favorite. That movie doesn't do much for me, but Escape from New York it's that same way for me. It's like, all right, it has a lot of neat ideas, but yeah, a lot of holes in the plot. I felt like the cabbie guy just always happens to show up when the plot needs him to show up, and he's like just happens to drive outside like, hey guys, get in the car. It's like, okay, no, but
yeah, each of the movies, all the characters are very unique, and they all just happen to show up at the right time.
Yeah. I felt Escape from L.A. wasn't as bad in this. I think I like, and this is, I think, sacrilege, but I think I like Escape from L.A. a little bit more than Escape from New York. Yeah. It was more, the pacing was better in that film. The story was, I think, had a little bit more going on. It didn't seem as forced in some areas, again, there's a lot. I'm really fascinated by Escape from LA, which we'll get to in a moment, I'm sure. Let's stick with New York for right now. But, yeah.
I feel like both of I can't really say which one I prefer more because it's a very moody decision. Mm-hmm. I feel like both of them are like a solid 8 or 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Both of them, I don't think either of them are better than the other. They are exactly at the same point, just depending on your mood.
Okay, I could see that.
Right. I mean, I like the slower, the darker movies where it's just really drawn out, such as New York. And so most of the time, I probably would watch New York. But if I'm looking for just like a more fast-paced and funnier one, I would definitely go with L.A. But
the one thing I noticed about Kurt Russell, I noticed this more in the second one than the first, but Snake isn't given a lot of lines. You don't know much about him other than what the people tell us about him. Mm-hmm. And since he's so quiet, there is so much acting just going on in his expressions, and which is mostly stoic, but his eye the way he looks at other characters, and it just works on so many levels. Like in the second one, where that girl that he kind of met up with, who is just randomly shot and dies. Like, he didn't care much about this person. Like, he just met her, but you could tell just in his eyes that he was visibly saddened that she was killed just very unceremoniously. He drops her and then forgets about her, but there's the acting in his eyes there. I think Kurt Russell is such a top notch in his job there that he was able to convey that in this emotionless character, and it's just wonderful to see him act like that.
Yeah, and the way that he speaks, like you said, he doesn't have a whole lot of lines, but the lines that he does say are just so intense. Where I'm just like, oh my gosh, say something else, because it is so cool.
Call me Snake.
The way that he talks is very forced. Very similar to how Batman, Christian Bale's Batman, where it's just like, that's not his real voice.
Oh, yeah.
He's an actor. He's playing Snake Plissken, and he does it so well.
It fits for the character. It really does.
And it gets to the point where, like, I don't even recognize that this is Kurt Russell. This is Snake Plissken.
He falls into the role, yeah.
And I mean, I honestly would love to have seen more characters like this, because I found out that after New York, they did L.A., and then there was rumors that they were going to do an Escape from Earth.
Yeah, well, I was reading about that earlier. It was like Escape from Mars or something like that.
And oh my gosh, that would have been so cool. Just because I want to see more of Snake. I don't care what he does. As long as he's escaping from somewhere, I would watch it.
Funny story about the proposed Escape from Mars. Escape from LA was a huge bomb at the box office, so all ideas for a sequel were nixed.
Wait,
but
why do you think that was? That LA was a bomb?
Well, it wasn't getting good reviews at the time, which never helps. But I just think it was a movie that was released at a time where people weren't interested in seeing a sequel to a film that came out 15 years earlier. I don't know if there was...
I think it was too silly.
Yeah.
Because when you're coming off of Escape from New York, and you all of a sudden have just these very bombastic characters, and just over the top performances, it's a little bit of a shock to you.
I'm looking at its box office here on Wikipedia. It looks like, according to this, it made about the same amount of money as the first movie, but LA had a higher budget. That's, I think, something else that obviously did it in there. Going back to that, you're talking about the Escape from Mars movie. Yep. So since that movie bombed, they wanted to make this sequel, but it didn't work. So they weren't making it. But John Carpenter used the script or the original story idea and turned it into its own movie, which became Ghosts from Mars, which came out in like 2000 or 2001, starring Ice Cube as the Snake Plissken type character.
I wasn't familiar with that.
That movie was destroyed critically and financially because no one went to see it. And I guess Carpenter was so disillusioned with Hollywood after that that was the last film he made in almost 10 years.
Yeah, that was a really bad movie.
That could have been the third Escape From movie, so I don't know if that would have been a good thing or a bad thing, but I want to talk about Escape from L.A., because I am fascinated by this film. L.A. is...
Well, let's just start off. Did you like it?
I liked it more than New York. If I had to go back and rewatch it, I'd probably watch L.A. over New York. But, and the reason I say that is L.A. and New York are almost the exact same movie. And I'm not saying like they just use like a similar story structure to do it. I mean, you have like Snake getting arrested before the movie, being infected by something, having to go in to rescue something connected to the president. Once he gets there, he meets the villain who kind of runs the town. He is put in a death match, which he wins against unbearable odds.
Mm-hmm.
He meets a random girl in conjunction with these underground crazy people, and then that random girl dies unceremoniously.
Along with meeting just a whole bunch of randos that he had past relations with.
Yeah, and there's that. He meets someone who just happens to be a friend from the past, or someone who crossed him in the past, I guess. And then there's a guy who keeps, a character who keeps, trading sides on, I'm with the bad guy. No, I'm with you, Snake. I'm with the bad guy. No, I'm with you, Snake. There's a sort of a quick talker who has a car who drives him around all over the place.
Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi in the second one, and Ernest Borgnine in the first. So, for me, I'm watching this, and it's I just saw this movie. This is the exact same thing. Just there's a little bit more action in it, and it's a little bit better paced.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a very interesting ending that Snake eventually, spoilers, destroys the world.
Yeah, that ending in L.A. I liked a lot more because there was just a lot more to it rather than in the first one where it's basically deliverance. I'm done.
Yeah. He destroys the cassette tape, which I'm surprised he wasn't arrested for doing that, but what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But this, no, he blows up the world there.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder how they would have done a sequel anyway, but...
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I heard... I heard that it was going to be Escape from Earth, and just that reception wasn't that good for the LA, and so they didn't do it. But then again, once you get into that, I don't know. I feel like it, the story kind of, I don't know where I'm going with this. The story becomes more universal, whereas many other movies can apply this. More science fiction movies can apply this premise to it.
Right. The thing I found absolutely fascinating about Escape from L.A., besides its point-by-point remake, but is that the visuals and the effects. This movie was made in the mid-'90s. These visuals and effects look so dated for the 90s. And I'm watching this, I'm like, these look like they came from the first film, which almost makes me wonder if they did that intentionally to have a better sense of continuity between the films.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, that's part of the reason that I found this to be childish, is that these graphics are being used on the Sci-Fi Channel right now.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
I wish, I'm sure if I Googled it, I could probably find it, or find an answer to my question, but I almost wonder if they did that purposely so, because, when you make sequels that are decades apart, you're going to notice some differences in the style of effects. Case in point, look at the original Star Wars trilogy and compare it with the prequels. Very different. They almost look like they could be different film series. Mm-hmm. But there's not a problem with that. It's just the nature of the beast. It's how things run. But and for some movies, for some moviegoers, they could form like a discontinuity. I know some people had some issues with Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, how different and modern it looked compared to the original films. It's like, well, it's a modern movie. It's going to have to look like that. But it seemed like the Carpenter took the extra step to make Escape from L.A. feel like this came right after Escape from New York, which, on one hand, I kind of have to applaud him for that, because that
I can see that being a logical explanation of that. I could see that.
So, I mean, whether it was in the film's favor or not, that's open to debate, but it's just interesting nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I really liked about these films is, even though they take place in the future and it's sci-fi, you don't get a lot of future technology in the movies. It looks like it could theoretically take place today.
Yeah, pretty much the only thing that they have that's really advanced is, what is it?
The holograms.
Yeah, the holograms and the navigation systems.
Yeah. Well, actually, the navigation systems look dated, but
yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, it all looks like in another movie they'd have like laser guns and things like that. Like, nope, just regular guns. Maybe they look a little souped up, but just regular guns.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. There are times I forgot that this was a sci-fi film because of the technology behind it.
Yeah, yeah. I think of it more as an action film. But yeah, while doing a little bit of research, it was often referred to as a science fiction action film, which is actually pretty legit because California isn't a prison.
Right.
I mean, LA isn't a prison. And so yeah, this is kind of science fiction. And that's part of the reason that I liked the first one more was because it had more of a...
Escape from New York is much more gritty than LA. It has more of a grit, more of a realistic feel to it. And even though, it is science fiction, it doesn't necessarily feel like you're what one would think that science fiction would be like.
I found Escape from New York, the first one, to be also kind of reminiscent of The Warriors. Have you seen that one? The Warriors is, I think, an 80s film. I know that my dad loves it, and he used to make me watch it probably as often as he made me watch this one. But it's basically about this gang who's accused of killing a gang leader, and they have to like get back to their home turf. And in order for them to do so, they have to like travel through these gang infested neighborhoods trying to escape. And it was kind of like the same thing where he's just traveling along these infested neighborhoods, just trying to stay out of trouble, just to get to your destination. So I found that very similar, and both of them were, I think that they were about the same time.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it. Came out in 1979, so yeah, it would definitely fall in that same sort of time period when movies like this were made.
Right, and I don't know whether New York Warriors is considered more of a classic, but I know just from, I guess from a family standpoint, I feel like Warriors stands higher, but New York is right next to it. Yeah, it's fantastic. That's The Warriors is the movie with the scene where at the end of the movie there's the antagonist who's got all the glass bottles, like a glass bottle per finger, and he's like clinking them together, and he's like, Warriors. It's an iconic scene, which is often spoofed or mocked or something like that. In regards to LA, I have to say my favorite scene throughout both movies is the surfing scene. In Escape from LA, for some reason, one of the friends that Snake meets is the surfer who's just like, let's surf up.
Yeah, played by Peter Fonda. Horribly miscast as a surfer dude, but...
Gosh. Yeah, in the scene, for no reason, they're just like, they go surfing, and it just looks so bad. And then just to top it all off, you have Buscemi driving down in this flamboyant...
red convertible.
And Kurt Russell jumps from his surfboard on the wave over into Buscemi's convertible, and it's just like at that point you know that this movie is not serious, and it's just you don't care where it's going. It's a fun ride, and you want to see where it's taking us.
I will say that I agree. It's just they care, but they don't care. They're just doing, let's see what we can get away with in this movie. With the LA, they were trying to be more satirical, but I don't know how well it actually worked. Like, they're like, the big thing that both these movies do well is they create these worlds and like the sub-societies that created out of these prisons. And in LA, you have a lot of the stuff with moral America and the religious right and everything. And then you go into LA, and there's like this whole like subculture in the culture that of the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills, played by Bruce Campbell.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
And like they all want like the plastic surgery, which is hilarious because obviously California and LA specifically with their Hollywood roots are known for their plastic surgery, so the actors could still look good and young and everything. And how like just ridiculous it is. And Bruce Campbell pops up in this. It's not a latex mask, but it has this makeup on. It looks like he has like a lot of like plastic surgery done on him, and
Yeah.
it's so weird. It's so weird.
But I think that he does that awesome because his face is already very notable, and it doesn't take much to make him look like that. I mean, no insult to him. He's a very, very good-looking guy. He's just very unique looking.
Yeah, he definitely has. He definitely has a look to him. Definitely has a look,
which he pulls off in everything.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
But I guess bringing this back, this is Kurt Russell month. So
yes.
These movies, they're not about. It's not Snake Plissken the movie, but these movies could not have been made without Snake Plissken, and I feel that Kurt Russell really pulls through as Snake Plissken in both of these movies. Do you think that anybody else could have done this?
That's tough to say.
For instance, they are thinking about doing a remake. Actually, I think it's more than thinking about.
They've been trying to get one going for almost 10 years now.
I believe it's taken off. And Kurt Russell has said that the guy doing it...
I know, let's see, I'm pulling it up here. About 10 years ago, Gerard Butler almost did it, but that fell through. Jeremy Renner, a couple years ago, a.k.a. Hawkeye in whatever that movie is, The Avengers, was in talks of doing it, but I don't know if that actually went through. So, yeah, I don't think they've signed anyone yet, but...
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Kurt Russell do it again. Because, I mean, he is old, but he is still got it.
I'd say he probably would have one more in him. Just to see, like, a Snake film now that he's older and maybe on the verge of retirement or something.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with him taking the sidelines in it. I mean, if he's too old to do it, he gets a team together, his old teammates that can do this.
I don't know if that'd be a good idea, though.
As long as you got him on the cover and in, 60% of the film, I think he could pull it.
Maybe.
Because it's not going to be as stupid or as L.A. It's got such a cult following that it's got a world to live in. Mm-hmm. And it just has to be projected. So, but yeah, obviously they can pull it into any different thing, like Escape from the Middle East or something like that, and give it like a political commentary on it.
Yeah, Escape from America. Have America be the prison now.
Right, Escape from Guantanamo or something like that.
Nah, Harold and Kumar did that already. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they did it. I can't see Snake, just from a story standpoint or a character standpoint, working in a team.
Yeah.
Because he's a lone warrior. He's not someone who trusts easily. And when we hear stories of when he worked in teams, it always seems like he gets screwed over.
Yeah, but he never wanted to do this in the first place. He was forced into it.
That's true.
So, I mean, if he's forced into, working with this guy who he is the only person who can access this database, and this is the only person that can fly this helicopter, special helicopter thing.
Like, force him to work with someone else, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, and then you got, like, a little bit of comic relief in there, like the guy who, like, just hitches on, and...
Maybe have his partner, his, like, Snake's new partner, like, instead of like giving Snake a virus this time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
if his partner dies.
Or like have like his partner's life connected to Snake's life. Like say like they inject like a heart monitor in Snake.
Yeah.
And a heart monitor in the other guy. If the other guy dies or Snake, kills him, Snake is a suicide for him as well.
Oh my god, dude.
So
This
Snake
is
has to keep him alive.
Yeah.
To retrieve something. This movie writes itself now.
Yeah.
But the only problem I see is that Snake destroyed the world at the end of the last one. So unless they say, "Oh, nope, it didn't work," I don't know how they would get around the lack of technology.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That's for screenwriters smarter than us to figure out.
Yeah. Do you feel like the Snake Plissken in New York is the same Snake Plissken in L.A.?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, I think so also, in that pretty much the story is the only... Everything except for Snake Plissken changes in both of the movies. Snake Plissken does not change. I mean, I do feel like he looks a lot more badass and cool in the second one.
Yeah, he has like the leather jacket and everything.
Right. Yeah, because in the first one he's wearing the spandex pants, and I'm like, I do not know how he pulls that off, but he does.
Yep. And he's wearing the same outfit in the beginning of the second one too.
Yeah, I read that also because and that goes to show you just how much Kurt Russell really liked Snake Plissken, and that he held on to it, and that's awesome.
The one thing I did notice that Snake did change between the two is that in the second one he seemed more. I kind of alluded to this earlier. In the first one, he didn't care who lived, who died. He just wanted to get the president and then get out of there. In the second one, he seemed more caring. Like, he seemed upset that that girl had died. He seemed more adamant about wanting to save the daughter. I don't see Snake Plissken in the first one doing that, but I attribute that to him being older, maybe having more experiences, maybe not necessarily going soft, but maybe his moral code is not as cynical as it once was.
Yeah.
But then again, he could have been using the girl at the end to give her the fake remote control so Snake could do it himself.
Yeah.
How would you recommend these films to people?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a vanilla and chocolate movie of John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. But then again, if you don't like anything else that John Carpenter does or anything else that Kurt Russell does,
you're probably not going to like this.
Right. So it's like, if you like The Thing, you're probably going to like this. And it's just like, I don't know, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell, all of his movies just kind of go hand in hand. So, but yeah, if somebody is like into Kurt Russell, I think, do you think what do you think Kurt Russell's best film is with John Carpenter? Or no, let's just go. What is Kurt Russell's best movie? Or your most favorite movie?
I don't know. I don't feel I've seen enough of them to really give a legitimate answer.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, I'm looking at his filmography on Wikipedia here right now, and he's probably got a good, 50 films on here that are just pure, him in the lead. And I haven't seen enough to actually give a legitimate answer to that. He's done dramas, he's done action, he's done comedy with Overboard and Captain Ron. He's done science fiction. I do have to admit,
I have not seen Captain Ron yet.
I haven't seen Captain Ron either. My bride always tells me how hilarious it is, and I've seen clips, and I don't know if the movie's good, but he looks amazing in that film. It's another film where he has an eye patch, so there you go.
Yeah.
But he just looks so over the top.
Yeah, thinking about it, because I was going to say, I mean, I love Snake Plissken, and he might be my favorite Kurt Russell character. But then again, I just go to, The Thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, R.J. McCready, this man crush is just illogical. It just breaks my conscience. So, but I guess I would just have to go with Copper in The Fox and the Hound.
Yeah, he did the voice, didn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, I don't have I don't think I have any more thoughts at the moment on the Escape series.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. This is going to be a tough question for you, but I'm going to ask you it anyway. And I don't have an answer, so you can't flip this question on me. If Hollywood came to you and said, Gorehound, you are going to be a Hollywood producer, and your first project is to remake Escape from New York, and your first task is to recast Snake Plissken, who would you cast as Snake Plissken?
Well, as Russell's already said, he is American. So we have to find an American guy.
Okay.
He certainly can't be very clean cut, because this guy is rough around the edges.
Mm-hmm.
He's not funny at all.
Well, he is, but it's like a sarcastic funny.
Yeah, and he is funny, and he is...
Like, he's not going to be cracking jokes.
Right.
But he's going to be, like, being sarcastic to... We, the viewers, will find him funny, but, people around him won't be.
I don't think that he should be, in particular, very muscular. Because I remember while I was watching New York, is that he's in a very... His physique is very everyday guy.
Yeah. He's in shape, but he's not Schwarzenegger.
Right. I feel like if... give me 3 months and I could maybe look like him.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that he could do it. I think that I could do it. And that gives me, like, okay, this guy is real. Just throwing the thought out there. But, what about James McAvoy?
Oh, Professor X?
Yeah.
Well, he's not American.
Oh, right, yeah.
And, maybe he has a sort of Kurt Russell-y look to him. Like, in pure looks. But I've never seen him play a character that rough and tumble before.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I mean, my first impression would just be to go with, well, why do we have to recast him? Why can't we just use Kurt Russell?
Well, I don't know. I'm just telling you this is a scenario presented to you.
Right.
We want to do a Snake Plissken origin story, which, by the way, would be a terrible idea because he doesn't need an origin.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's what's awesome about it, is that we don't know anything about him, and we're not going to know anything about him.
We don't need to know anything about him.
Right. What happens right now and in the next minute is the only thing that he cares about. Mm-hmm. I'm finding that a lot of these, a lot more actors than I knew are British or not American.
Yeah, that's a big thing now.
Yeah, because I was thinking Ragnar Lodbrok from Vikings would be awesome, but yeah, he is really not American.
I know this guy's not American, but what about what's his face from The Walking Dead, the main character there?
No,
the sheriff guy.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Rick Grimes. I mean, he does very good in his role, where he is just like this guy who gets just stuck with this shitstorm. And Rick Grimes would not. Wait, what's his name? Andrew what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, Andrew something.
Something with a W.
I can't see him playing somebody who would have voluntarily Andrew Lincoln would have voluntarily chosen this life. I feel like Snake Plissken chose the life. He's rough around the edges, and he chose to be rough around the edges. He doesn't want to be clean cut. He doesn't want to look for a family. He does what he wants. So no, I could not see that.
So pretty much you're coming up blank on who to recast as Snake Plissken.
I'm thinking about it, And yeah, with that restriction that they have to be American,
That makes it tough.
Right. Yeah, I would probably go with I don't know. I would have to go with an unknown character because all these other people, I just have this preconceived notion, and I want this guy. I would want him to come out of the shadows. Nobody's really heard of him,
so he just becomes that role, and you don't associate him with someone else.
Yeah,
like Jared Butler, like if
Mads Mikkelsen.
Who?
Mads Mikkelsen.
From Casino Royale,
Casino Royale.
Hannibal, I think he was into.
Hannibal, right?
I think he's foreign. Isn't it?
Oh yeah, totally foreign.
Yeah,
with a name like Mads.
Yeah. He's Danish.
But when he was in Valhalla, I had never seen that movie. Have you seen that?
Mm-mm.
Oh my god, it's fantastic. It's yet another slow movie. Valhalla. Just quick synopsis. Valhalla is about this guy One Eye, who's a slave, Mads Mikkelsen, who has one eye, and he's just like he's forced to fight for his people every day, and it's just very dark and gloomy, where every single day is overcast, and he escapes, and he's just like doing what he wants, and it's very slow, but it's so cool, and you're just like, gosh, this guy is such a badass fighting for his life. So,
looking at him here, I don't know if he'd be a good Snake Plissken. He seems like he'd be a little bit too old for the role. He's about 50 at the moment. I mean, not saying he couldn't do it, but if you're going to recast someone younger, I'd say Snake should be in his mid to late 30s.
Yeah, perhaps I'm just thinking about how badass. I feel like the badassery that he exhibited in that movie is similar.
He's an awesome actor. He was great in Casino Royale, and even though the show wasn't my cup of tea, he was really good in Hannibal. So yeah, he's great.
You have anybody in mind, or
No, I wouldn't even know where to begin. I think like you, because Snake Plissken's kind of a well-known character, so associated with Kurt Russell, get a complete unknown. So the only problem you do that is if you get an unknown, they might try to emulate Kurt Russell way too much, where they're not making the role their own, and they're just trying to do an imitation of it. So I don't know. But getting an unknown, I think that would be your best bet. Well, let's see. Do you have anything else to talk about? Escape from New York or L.A.?
I do not, so I guess that concludes.
All right, well, this has been another episode. Thanks for listening to us, guys. We'll come at you next week. I don't know, what's the date next week? The 25th, with our last Kurt Russell movie of the month. We don't exactly know what that's going to be at the moment, I don't think.
No, we didn't come up with something we're talking about.
We don't. Yeah.
It'll be a surprise.
It'll be a surprise. We'll surprise you with our last one. So be tuned in for that, for our finale. Thanks for listening to us, guys. Thank you, Gorehound, for being a part of tonight's episode. And we will see you all next time.
Thanks.
You've been listening to the all-new CultureCast, where every episode is all new. Check out our blog, Zach and Nick's CultureCast, at znculturecast.wordpress.com, and find us on social media. Send us an email at nick.culturecast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your feedback, comments, and requests. Theme music by bensound.com. The all-new CultureCast, a saltwater production, copyright 2016.
I did just contradict myself, didn't I?
Well, I was a little confused. I'm not sure where he's going, but let me see where this is going.
No, I'm not going anywhere with that.
Okay.
Maybe you could delete that part.